Greetings, I'm Roberto Valdez, Master of the Science of Geography and instructor at Northern New Mexico College in Española, New Mexico. Geography is a science involved with the description, distribution, and interaction of the physical and biological features as well as the human activity on Earth and its atmosphere. Among the things that we look at are natural hazards. So for today, I want to introduce you that geography can help identify natural hazards, and geographers also assess the human impacts on natural resources. We might ask, well, what good is geography? Many careers in government and the private sector are occupied by people with geography majors, or at least training in geography. Many have careers such as scientists, land managers, technicians such as survey technicians, emergency management agents, and people involved with the national census. Agencies of government that host many geographers include the Bureau of Land Management, the United States Forest Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service, National Park Rangers, people involved with what was formerly called the U.S. Soil Conservation Service, but is now called the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and of course the Federal Emergency Management Agency, who step in the aftermath of a disaster to provide aid and also assess damage, and in some cases ahead of disasters make preparations. They work for the U.S. Census Bureau, producing statistics. They work for the U.S. Geological Survey, who produce maps and data. They work for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They work for the United States Housing and Urban Development. Not all geographers work for agencies of government. Some, with geography training, assist ranchers and farmers to defend themselves against to defend themselves and also to interact with government, with environmentalist groups, with developers, with cities, to defend their rights to land, to water, and to grazing on public lands. Further careers that involve geographers or people with geographic training are hydrologists, who work for agencies of the state such as the State Engineer or the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Some of them are photogrammetric specialists, and that is, they specialize in the reading and interpretation of aerial photographs and enhance the images for use in extracting data. Some are computer scientists involved with geographic information systems and work for the Los Alamos National Laboratory, county planning and zoning bureaus, urban planners such as for the city of Albuquerque or for the city of Santa Fe, or they work as census takers or computer scientists in the U.S. Census Bureau. Some are involved with the real estate industry, such as they're technicians for engineering or land surveying, or they work for consulting companies who are hired by developers or by government to provide data. Now, many with training in geography also work in the extraction industries, the fossil fuels, but they're also involved in the alternative energy industries, assessing where best to locate wind generation and solar generating stations. Educators some of them are geographers, such as myself, who teaches at a local college teaching culture, history, and of course geography. If you turn on the evening news, you will sometimes encounter a meteorologist, a genuine trainee in the field of meteorology. It is an offshoot of a geographic specialty called climatology, a specialty that studies the atmosphere and its hazards. Meteorologists, on the other hand, are specialized in prognosticating the future as well. Some archaeologists have training in geography. They use geographic information systems to look into the past and assess even things like aerial photographs of historic sites. Some geographers are prolific authors and write in journals, and their contribution is to fill in the gaps of our scientific knowledge wherever they can find it. Many geographers are not necessarily part of the elite or part of the established order. Some of them critique the established order and ask us to think about things. They introduce wisdom in the political debates about how we use land, how we use water, about development, and about environmental degradation. While at UNM, I had the pleasure of meeting a former PhD candidate. His name was Lucas Jopa, and he used a geographic information system to assess the effectiveness of national parks. And what he had to say was rather eyebrow-raising. He presented that national parks are not always good. They employ political policies that sometimes degrade the environment that they are supposed to be protecting. So he examined problems that arose from land management from afar off. In other words, agencies are always long distance from the land that they are managing versus local people who have a more intimate, often have a more intimate relationship with the land around them. Geographers or people with training in geography are involved in hazard management, in looking for places that are that provide dangers to lives or to property, and this includes assessment of earthquake zones. And the other thing that I'm going to introduce you here to, wildland urban interfaces. These are zones that are mapped out by people with geographic training, looking for areas where either cities or collections of ranches and farms butt up against solid forest. These areas are usually more prone to disaster during drought years and have a special designation for that leads to decision making and policy, such as, for example, thinning the forest so that they don't become such fire hazards to property and lives. When you think of disasters, you might think of the 2005 Hurricane Katrina, which flooded much of New Orleans, Louisiana. And you might think of also the tsunami in the Indian Ocean, that an earthquake occurred that caused these huge waves that destroyed coastal cities. You might think of airline crashes, or you might think of oil tanker disasters. All of these are fall within the questions that are asked by geographers. What are the biophysical causes of these disasters, or what are the human causes of these disasters? This is a problem-solving aspect of geography. There are climatologists, meteorologists, and oceanographers that study the oceans and provide us an assessment of hazards that occur from the sea or from the atmosphere. Shown in this photograph is a drilling in the San Juan Basin of northwestern state of New Mexico. A lot of geographers or people with geographic training work in the energy extraction industries. They attempt to locate quantities of the natural resources that are sought after and quantify them. These are the contributions that geographers make to our energy-driven world. They also work for agencies of those of government, as well as the corporations themselves, in order to mitigate or lower the impact on the environment. One example that I can show you is a plume of methane that was detected by a satellite flying over the United States. Shown here, the red spot, red, orange, and yellow spot on the San Juan Basin of northwestern state of New Mexico. This is from a story in 2014 entitled "The U.S. Methane Hotspot Bigger Than Expected." So again, the question is asked, what are the biophysical causes? What are the human causes of these things? And how might we act to mitigate the impact of resource extraction and lower environmental degradation? So in summation, I wanted to show you that geography is it's a science about the description, the distribution, and the interaction of the physical and biological features, as well as the human activity on Earth and its atmosphere. And from that we get specialties dealing with resource extraction, assessment of environmental degradation, human impact, and the identification of natural hazards. This concludes this presentation.